Hey guys, welcome back to another great game of CDH. I hope everyone watching is having a happy Halloween. And today, this game was filmed actually in person at the Bandle Standard in East Windsor. And as always, it's a blast to be able to play in person. Also, if you like what you see, consider joining our Patreon, as with your help, we can keep producing the videos you enjoy. And if you want to play with us, hop on our Discord. We have an ever-growing community that loves to talk MTG or whatever else strikes our fancy. And we would love to meet new people. Alright, block there, kill that. Oh, that is trample. Guess I'm just dead on board. Starting us off is Jimmy, playing Jetmir. This is a creature-based stax deck that pressures his opponent's life total. And while Jetmir's first buff of a power and vigilance doesn't seem like much, it really does help you utilize your mana dorks much more effectively. And while 9 creatures seems like a lot, in testing, it's pretty achievable, and oh boy, does Double Strike really end things quickly. Next up is Hidden Planet X, who has brought Evelyn the Covetous. And while this was a commander I dismissed originally as being more of a casual setting kind of card, oh boy, does this deck slap. This deck actually is a turn 1 World Gorger combo win with Evelyn, which is insane. And when you have an Underworld Breach and Thrasios as a backup win cons, this deck is always a threat. In the third spot, we have mtga Lutz, who is playing everyone's favorite Warrior Queen Najeela. This is a 5-color Thrasios consultation list that backdoors into an infinite creatures and combats combo with Najeela, who even if just left alone can amass a horde of warriors to take their opponents out. And bringing up the rear, we have Fernando on Shorikai Genesis Engine. This is a humility control deck, as Shorikai is not a creature and can win through humility, unlike a majority of other commanders, with another benefit coming as an outlet for Isochron Dramatic, since this commander doesn't require either haste or to wait a turn. But without further ado, let's get on to the gameplay. Jimmy starts off the game with a Taiga, which pays for an Avacyn's Pilgrim. Hidden plays and cracks a Scalding Tarn for a Volcanic Island. Lutz cracks a Misty for a Taiga, but shortcuts as he casts a Birds, then hands the turn over to Fernando as he searches. Fernando has a Scalding Tarn and plays a Chrome Mox, imprinting a delay. Jimmy plays the Spectator Seating and casts everyone's favorite Drannith Magistrate. Fernando does crack his fetch for a Tundra, but the Drannith resolves. Hidden draws, but unfortunately does not find another land, as he casts a Rite of Flames to cast an Arcane Signet. Lutz plays a Marsh Flats and then uses his bird to cast a Wild Growth on his Taiga. He then cracks the flats for a Scrubland, and shortcuts for Black Market Connections. And on his end step, Fernando flashes in a Cathar Commando. Fernando plays another fetch, this one being a Misty Rainforest, but decides to hold up his mana and passes. Jimmy has a City of Brass, and luckily for him, the Drannith doesn't stop him from casting his own commander, Jetmir. Fernando does respawn by bolting himself to grab an untapped Hollowed Fountain, but the commander resolves. He then heads to combat and has 3 creatures to give his Drannith +1/+0 and Vigilance. He sends the Drannith at Lutz, who is actually using his life as a resource. Hidden draws and still hasn't found another land. He does at least have some artifact ramp as he casts a Felwar Stone. Lutz untaps and takes 6 life from his connections to create a treasure, draw a card, and a 3/2 Shapeshifting Warrior. He then plays a Cavernous Souls, naming warriors, and uses his Taiga to cast a Carpet of Flowers. He still has a floating mana left and casts a Demonic Tutor. He goes searching, ultimately finding a card to hand before passing to his second main to activate his carpet for 2 red, and casts an uncounterable Professional Facebreaker. The Facebreaker resolves, and at his end step, Fernando casts a Whir of Invention to grab a Mana Crypt. Fernando untaps and takes 3 from his Crypt. He has a Mana Conflux his land, and unfortunately he can't cast his commander and passes. Jimmy has a Forest and casts an Aladomri's Call, to which Fernando hard casts a Force of Negation to counter the spell. Jimmy then follows this up with a 2-mana Occam Adversary, and he heads to combat. He sees Hidden is wide open and sends Jetmir and the Drannith at Hidden for 8. Hidden draws and still hasn't found a land. He did find a Sol Ring off the top, but his hand is not great, and he hands the turn over. Lutz untaps and gains 2 mana off his carpet. He then takes another 6 from his connections to get another warrior, treasure, and card draw. Lutz then decides to pay more life for a Fire Covenant. He decides to pay 10 life to wipe every creature except for Jimmy's Pilgrim. Fernando does respond by sacrificing his commando to destroy Lutz's carpet. Lutz still has those 2 floating mana, and with the help of his cavern, casts an uncounterable Najeela. Lutz then heads to combat, but before attackers are declared, Hidden flashes in a dress down to slow the warrior queen down. Lutz doesn't have an answer in hand and sacks a treasure to his facebreaker to exile an ignoble hierarch off the top. He decides he doesn't want to waste the other treasure, and the dress down resolves, with Hidden drawing off the ETB, with Lutz passing after that, and Hidden sacrificing the dress down at end step. Fernando untaps and is safe from his crypt. The Traneth is now gone, so Fernando casts his commander Shorikai. But Hidden knows how much value Shorikai can offer, and Red Elemental blasts it. And oh boy, does this make him an enemy in Fernando's eyes. Jimmy plays an exotic orchard as land and simply recasts his commander, to which Hidden jokingly uses his spent Red Elemental blast to counter the commander. Hidden draws and passes. Lutz this time only takes 3 off his connections, 4 treasure, and a draw. He then casts a Chromox and imprints a Deathrite Shaman. He heads to combat, and this time it's Fernando who responds. He casts a Cyclonic Rift to bounce the Najeela and make Lutz very sad, as he had hoped to activate Najeela to gain some of that life back. But Najeela is bounced, and Lutz just sends his Facebreaker at Jimmy, who can't block the menacing creature, and Lutz gets a treasure. On his second main, Lutz ends his turn recasting Najeela. Fernando wins his crypt trigger and spends his turn recasting his commander. Jimmy has a tapped Stomping Ground and casts a Grand Abolisher. This does force Hidden to respond by flashing in his commander Evelyn. But remember when I said Hidden had pissed off Fernando? Well, he responds by taking 1 to Force of Will it, exiling a Fierce Guardianship to do it. The Abolisher then resolves, and Jimmy then heads to combat. He sends Jetmir and his Pilgrim at Hidden for 8, with Jimmy ending his turn with the Deafening Silence. Hidden draws and plays an Underground Sea, but right now he's in a tough spot. There's a lot of power on the battlefield, so needing a blocker, he casts a Simian Spirit Guide, and follows it up with a Praetor's Grasp, targeting Fernando. He secretly exiles a Thrasios, hoping for a cheeky win on a later turn, but at his end step, Lutz casts an Eladamri's Call, grabbing a Derevi. Lutz takes another 3 for a card draw and treasure. He then casts a Mystic Remora and follows it up with the tutored Derevi. This would go infinite, so Hidden responds with a Force of Will, exiling an Intuition. Derevi is countered, and Lutz then heads to combat. He sends his Facebreaker and the 2 Shapeshifters at Hidden, with Najeela going at Fernando. He triggers Najeela for 4 more warriors, which also head at Fernando. There are no blocks, and before damage, Lutz activates Najeela for an extra combat step and lifelink. Lutz then gains 2 treasures off his Facebreaker and heads to his second combat. He sends the 2 Changelings and Facebreaker at Hidden, with Najeela and 4 warriors heading at Fernando. Najeela then creates 8 extra warriors, which head at Jimmy. Fernando and Hidden don't block, while Jimmy eats 2 of his warriors. Lutz then gains 3 treasures from his Facebreaker, and is enough to activate Najeela 1 final time. So unfortunately we had messed up our life totals a few times in the game, so this last attack is slightly incorrect, but Lutz would have sent 5 warriors and a Facebreaker at Hidden, then Najeela, the 2 Shapeshifters, and 7 warriors at Fernando, with the remaining 12 warriors heading at Jimmy. Jimmy can block 1 warrior, but this takes out Hidden and Fernando. So now it's all up to Jimmy, who draws and casts a Thalia. He then scoops as he realizes he's just dead on board. And before I get into the game review, I want to thank our Patreon subscribers. Game review. Well, it looks like combat won over combos this game, although I'm not super surprised seeing 2 stax decks and a control deck at the table. Overall, Hidden unfortunately did not keep a great opening hand, as with only 1 land, he spent most of the game just ramping to try and keep up mana-wise with his opponents. As for Fernando, it was turn 2 Dreadnought that stopped him, as that prevented from gaining any kind of card advantage after he blew through his counter magic. He was left with nothing but an empty hand. As for Jimmy, I think overall the Dreadnought was good, but once his board was wiped by Lutz, he just wasn't able to build back fast enough, especially when Najeela only needs a turn or 2 to amass a horde, which Lutz ultimately did, and with his Facebreaker, he was able to generate enough treasure to have several combats and take the game for the win. So congrats to him and all the other players, and I'll see you guys later. Hey guys,
Thanks for making it to the end of the video. I just wanted to let you know that we have a TCG affiliate link, and if you ever see a card you want to try or are inspired to brew something new, use our link when purchasing and we'll receive a small portion of the sale. This is a great way to support the channel, and if you enjoyed the gameplay, please leave a like and subscribe, as it really helps us keep making videos. And remember, never give up, even if you're dead on board. I'll see you guys later.